Welcome to the SGV Master Key, a show where you will hear personal stories of triumph over failures and how others successfully navigated the unique landscape that is the San Gabriel Valley. What makes us different? Well, just like you, we have chosen the San Gabriel Valley for our home or businesses or both. We believe it is the people and small businesses that make this community great, and we love to share their stories with you. We always encourage your questions and feedback, and you can find all of our contact information at sgvmasterkey.com. Here are the hosts for the show, Russell Mono and Scott Warmoth.
Okay, welcome to another episode of the SGV Master Key podcast. I'm your host, Russell.
And I'm Scott.
And today we have a very special guest, Eva Lin. Welcome, Eva.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
So Eva, you're a realtor in the San Gabriel Valley.
I am.
Okay, so tell us a little about your connection with the San Gabriel Valley.
Sure. So I moved here after high school. I was actually in Florida before that. And my parents decided to move to San Gabriel Valley to start their next chapter. And that's how I got introduced to San Gabriel Valley at that time. So I've lived here since 2003. So it's been 17 years.
So you grew up your childhood and high school in Florida?
No. So I was born in Fujian, China, and I moved here when I was 13 to Florida, and I didn't speak any English at that time. So it was really hard for the first couple of years trying to learn the language and learn a new culture and helping my parents with their Chinese restaurant business while going to school. So there was a lot that I had to take on, but it was a really good experience for me to, grow up quickly and to be able to get to where I am today. I think there's a lot of that, the background really helped me to where I am today.
What I find so amazing is that your English is so proficient, and you didn't even speak it until you were 13?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's really special that you've been able to conquer this foreign language.
Yeah. There's definitely a true desire to want to learn the language because I couldn't speak a word of it in school. And it was junior high school. I really missed my hometown at the time, and having a new culture that I have to try to get accustomed to. And then along the way, being bullied, people would throw rocks at me. I'm like, what am I doing? I have to learn the language so I can actually stand up for myself. So that really helped. And I'm naturally outgoing. So that was another thing that really helped me to not be afraid of speaking to others and really practice my English on people. So that helped me with, correcting my accent and along the way and learning the language that way.
So you're pretty driven.
Yes, absolutely.
But you were an outsider. You came into a culture you didn't know. You came to a country you didn't know, speak a language you didn't know. Mm-hmm. And it was very difficult for you during those early years. Yeah. As you said, you were bullied. You were just, and this was in Florida.
Yeah, it was.
Which is probably not as open-minded, perhaps. I mean,
yes.
At that time. I hate to be stereotypical, but.
Yes, 1998, yes, absolutely. At that time, I was the only Chinese in my school, and it was really difficult. And on top of that, my parents, they didn't speak any English, and they opened their first Chinese restaurant in Florida in a small town called Palm Bay. So they hired a translator to help them pioneer the business. And so we helped my parents with, hosting, being a host, working. I started out as working as a dishwasher at age 13 after school to help my parents with their business. So along the way, I learned a lot, in the business practice, helping them with a lot of their finances, while I'm trying to learn the language. So it was a really good learning experience, definitely.
It was also quite ambitious for them to make the move from China to the U.S.
Oh, yes.
And to open a restaurant right away.
Yeah. Yes. So they didn't open a restaurant right away. They were in New York as their first stop, and they had a lot of odd jobs, like working in a factory or restaurants. And then they just kind of like saved up some money. And somehow they had discovered the opportunity to go to Florida. So they were the first ones to open a Chinese buffet restaurant. And buffet restaurant was such a novelty at that time. So it was a huge success for them. And that's when they decided that it's time for us to join them as a family. And that's when we moved to the US. Yeah.
And then from there, you came to the San Gabriel Valley. Where did you move to?
So I was in Palm Bay, Florida for about 5 years. I finished high school there. I was going to a college in Florida, but my parents decided to start their next venture in California because my mom had visited Los Angeles and she absolutely loved it because of the Asian community here. So she wanted to move here to start the next chapter, but she needed my help. So that's why I moved here with her, and I went to a community college while helping her with her business, and then also trying to figure out where I want to go to college. And that's where I set my eyes on USC, because USC had the best entrepreneurship program. So I was determined to get into USC at that time. And of course, the tuition was really expensive. And my parents had just paid for my older sister's college in Georgia Tech. And that was also a really expensive school. So I worked 3 jobs to get myself through college because I was so determined to have a college degree and to be able to start a business just like my mom did. Yeah.
And so at USC, you spent 4 years?
No, 2 years.
2 years?
2 years in community college,
okay,
and 2 years in Marshall School to finish the degree.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you are driven, and you paid your way through school.
I did. I really did.
Well, that's quite something to be proud of.
Thank you.
Did you? So, what did you do after you graduated?
So it was at USC that I was introduced to real estate. At that time, I knew I wanted to have my own business, but I didn't know what. And I went to a lot of networking events, a lot of career fair events. It just happens to be that one of the networking events that I went to, the counselor at the time said, you always want to write a thank you note card to all of the panelists that had attended the event, which I did. And one of them was a commercial broker, real estate broker, and his assistant contacted me, asking me to come in for an interview as to offer me an internship in the real estate office. So I went and I got the position as an intern. That's when I discovered my passion for real estate. Because of my work ethics, I was really good at being told what to do. So I did exactly what the broker told me to do, which is, basically calling everyone on based off of a phone book and see if they wanted to buy or sell their apartment buildings. And that's what I did every day. And that's what I did while I was going to school, while I had the internship there. And the broker saw so much potential in me that he sponsored to get me the real estate license, and then offer me the associate position in the summertime. And that's how I started my real estate career.
Was that here in Pasadena?
No, that was in downtown Los Angeles. He lives in Pasadena, but the practice that he had, it was in downtown Los Angeles. It's in one of the high skyscrapers. I think it was the gas company tower. Oh. That's where I went for the internship. Yeah.
Now you specialize in residential.
Correct.
How did that transition occur?
Yeah, so it was a really interesting story where when I worked for the commercial real estate broker, I had a lot of hopes. I was really excited about this opportunity because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a first-time immigrant. I didn't even speak the language, 7 years ago. And here I am, being handed with this opportunity. I really want to make something big and make my parents proud. So I worked really hard to generate leads so that the broker would mentor me and teach me the business. Come to find out, he was actually everything that I don't want to be because he was so unethical. He would forge signatures and send out fake offers just so that he could solicit more business for himself. And he would be over an hour late to the meeting. And I was like, is this normal? Like, is this how they position themselves as the big shot? Because, you know, I've heard real estate brokers, they make a lot of money and then they tend to be these big shot people that are always in charge. So that was my impression, but I didn't know much and I didn't want to, I was afraid to ask. And probably a year into it, I just really noticed a pattern of how he would lie about a lot of things. And I was just so uncomfortable with being around this office. And then also found out that he was involved in a lot of lawsuits. So I was actually really disheartened by the experience. And that was also the time that I was about to graduate in 2008. That happens to be the time where the market crashed. So I kind of called it quits at that time. I decided that, you know what, maybe real estate wasn't for me. And just happens to be that my mom was expanding her business and she asked me for my help too with her shop. So I said, okay, maybe I should go back to family business. Maybe that's where I should focus on with my entrepreneurship. And when I started working for my mom and I was like, this isn't me. It's not my passion. It's my mom's passion. So I started to look for opportunities elsewhere in real estate. And that's when Redfin just got introduced to Los Angeles area. So I thought maybe I should try residential. So I applied for a position as a field agent at Redfin. And then I realized I really loved it because they are so good about being transparent with their clients. And I felt so comfortable to be able to be honest with people and to not have to hide things, to be able to speak the truth about the houses that we were seeing and be able to, learn from the corporate, the pros and cons of a house. So I was really excited and I got really good at what I do. There's one year where I saw over 500 houses and it's like, I love seeing different houses and I just, that was like,
that's 1.5 a day.
Yeah.
And you sold?
Yeah. No. I didn't sell those houses. I was the showing agent.
Oh, okay.
So I got really good at looking at houses, knowing the structure of a house. That's basically the foundation. It was a really solid foundation that I built for myself. And then after I have grown to the point where I knew everything about the houses, I wanted to learn more about the transactional side of it. And that's when I wanted to climb the corporate ladder within the Redfin company, but it was hard because it was very competitive. And again, I didn't have the confidence that I was able to climb the ladder. So I decided that I would look elsewhere. And that's where I met my next mentor. She was a seasoned agent here in Pasadena. And she was very kind. She was very passionate about her business and her clients. And that's where I learned the other side of the business. And that's how I got better. So every step of the way, I just kept growing, and to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go out on my own, and here I am, have my own brokerage.
Your story is very similar to a lot of people in the San Gabriel Valley whose parents have come over and trying to carve out a living. Mm-hmm. Where did you go from being a new person in this country to believing that you could pursue something like getting into USC or starting your own business? Like how did you develop that mindset?
I don't think I developed I don't think I ever believed in myself from the get-go because I always lived in my sister's shadow. So I have two sisters, younger and older. My older sister, she's really smart and she's really good academic wise, and I wasn't. So growing up, I never had that confidence. And another thing is that I'm petite. So my mom's she always worried about me. She was like, "You're so short. What are you gonna do in life? Like nobody's ever gonna take you seriously because you're so short." And that's like the message that I had in my mind. So the rebellious side of me was like, "No, I'm gonna be better. I'm gonna work harder so I can be, I can actually prove to everyone that I can do this." So it was that drive of wanting to prove to my mom and to everyone that despite my shortcoming of my height and not being able to speak the language to be able to get to where I am, just sheer drive. I think that's what it got me to where I am today.
You went to USC and now you have your own brokerage.
Yes.
Right. And where are you operating mostly?
In San Gabriel Valley, you're referring the business, right?
Yes, yes. Mostly in the San Gabriel Valley.
Yes, correct.
And what is it that you love about what you're doing now?
So it's not just what I do now, it's always been I think real estate is just a channel in my passion. My passion is in helping people. And I know it's a very cheesy thing that everybody says. And I think it's more so because of my personal experience being an first generation immigrant. My parents were, a lot of times they were in a disadvantage. They didn't get the help that they needed along the way. And it's always been a passion for me to want to help those who didn't have the knowledge or didn't have the ability to recognize the advantage or the position that they were in. And that's what I wanted to do, always wanted to give my best to make sure that I can give them my all so that they can thrive in terms of their goals for their lives and their dreams and hopes. Real estate is probably one of the biggest financial decisions that one would make in their lives. And it's a huge, huge responsibility to be able to place their trust in me. And I just see that as such a sacred responsibility, and I've always had. So I always wanted to be true to my clients and always wanted to tell them the truth, whether it makes sense for them to make that financial decision, whether it is a good thing to do for their family. So that's always been my mission, to care for them and to give them the care that they need, that they otherwise would not have gotten if they were to go with someone else. And I do see there's a lot of deficiencies and unethical practice in real estate. And that's one of the things where I thought I could do my job to make that impact just within my ability and through my influence.
I imagine that the time you have with them is mostly spent talking about which homes they want to look at,
yes,
right? So,
yes.
But you have to develop some sort of trust with them, right? So how do you go about doing that?
I never make it about me. I almost never talk about me when I meet with new clients or even throughout the transaction, the relationship. I always made everything about them because it is about them. It's not about me. So I think it's just the genuine wanting, the desire to help, that was very authentic. And I think it's that authenticity that had helped them to be able to be comfortable with me. And I'm always very blunt, very direct. I almost never try to sugarcoat anything. And that's one thing that a lot of people liked about me. And obviously there are people who didn't like about me. So of course they didn't choose to work with me for that reason. But again, I wanted to just be upfront about my personality and what they can expect of me. If they were to choose me as their realtor, I'd definitely go all in and 100% committed to make sure that I can do my best for them.
Do you find that the majority of your clients in the San Gabriel Valley are similar to you? Like they either immigrants themselves or firstborn here of parents of immigrants?
No, actually, I help a variety of different type of clients. Either they're first-time home buyers or they are, retiring, downsizing from a home that they have lived in for many, many years. A lot of them aren't like me, I think. In a sense where I do see the similarity is just being able to place that trust, because they didn't know, or they didn't know how to identify a good realtor from a bad realtor. Because again, if you're licensed, if you're positioned as a professional, then you should be, but that's not always true. And that's where I see that the differences came from.
What are some of the ways that you would define or be able to recognize a good from a bad realtor?
I had so many stories, from my clients where they work with, they had worked with other agents that they just ended up not using because of how a lot of it is incompetency, I suppose, just, and I think they are trying to do their best. But again, because real estate has such a low barrier to entry, and there's very little training provided by the real estate business. So a lot of them were like learning as they go. So essentially, they're students. Well, it's almost like blind leading the blind in a sense, not coming in as an expert, not a guide to the clients, but more so, okay, well, I need a paycheck and you just happen to be wanting to buy a house, so let's work on this together and let's figure it out. And of course that's at the expense of the client, and that's always, it's never nothing good would come out of it, of course. So that's one of the most common stories that I've heard from my clients, especially the ones who had bad experience. There are a lot of good realtors in the area, definitely, and a lot that I respect and I want to learn from. And every time I get involved in a transaction, I do learn from my peers, and I value that opportunity to be able to learn from other experienced agents so that I can get better for my clients as well. And I think the difference is most of the agents, they tend to operate to the point where it's transactional. They do I wouldn't say the bare minimum. I would say they do where they think they've done enough from their point of view. But they wouldn't go the extra mile because they feel like, well, this is what I'm getting paid for, so that's all that I'm going to do. But they're not thinking from the client's point of view, and to really understand the amount of stress and anxiety that comes with moving, either selling or buying. There's just so much emotion involved. And I think it's that empathy that I could relate to. And that's where I really want to make sure they are cared for, not just in the beginning of the phase or during the transaction, but after the sale is finalized. I still want to make sure they're taken care of, because even after they moved into their new home, things could go wrong. And I want to make sure that they don't feel like I left them, and it's an ongoing relationship, and I want them to feel like we're always here for them. And that's always been my motto from the get-go.
You're very thorough and comprehensive in your marketing.
Thank you.
And you're working with, I would call it the public, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean, the real estate industry is famous for lots of people becoming agents when the market is good, and then they disappear when the market, is bad. But I noticed that you generate a lot of information and you like to educate.
Yes.
This is my impression of what I've seen. You like to educate the public, the buying public, the selling public. How much time do you spend, at what you do? Because I can tell that you're not just doing this as a job.
No, not at all.
You do this as something that's just your love and your passion.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really doesn't feel like a job to me. I live and breathe real estate. It's like the fun thing for me to do is looking at inventories. The fun thing for me to do is looking at houses, and whenever there's a new property coming on the market, I like to know everything about it, just so then I would know where what's selling, what's not selling. I like to follow the transaction just to see, oh, what happened to this one? Wow, that was crazy. I couldn't believe it sold for this much. I would never pay for that much. Or how come this one isn't selling? Like, I always want to know the backstory, and I follow the market. I follow the statistics of the real estate trend, and I want to share the information with the public because, again, most agents don't want to share this information because it's a lot of work to have to do the research and then putting together the information. And agents always get asked, when is a good time to sell? When is a good time to buy? And almost all the time the agents would say, well, right now is a good time. The market is hot, da, da, da. But that's just, that's always noise, right? I think for one to make an informed decision to either buy or sell, or to see where the market is going, and to make sure that they're not paying at the height of the market for a buyer, or the seller wants to sell at the top of the market before it crashes, they need to know, they need to be informed. And that's why I want to be able to provide that information. And again, it's very neutral. I'm not trying to benefit from giving out that information, but more so just so then they would know what to do and how to make the best decision for themselves and their families.
Yeah, you take this information and you really synthesize it, and you explain what it means.
Yes.
Which is a step beyond what a lot of people I have seen do in that industry.
Yes.
But right now, you also work with different charities, and you like to get involved in the community.
Yes.
What are some of the things that you do?
Yes. So Hillside's campus, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the organization. It's here locally in Pasadena, and it's a transitional foster care. What's really impactful about the organization is that they take in foster kids who had gone through so much trauma and abuse in their experience, where they couldn't even function in the normal society. They couldn't even get placed in a foster care program because they were so damaged. And the Hillside's campus would help them to get reacclimated into the society. And we just find that to be so incredible to have this kind of an organization to help people who are in need, and they probably felt so abandoned along the way, to be hurt at every corner. So what we do every year, and we're always excited about this project, is we do this twice a year. We would buy, build, and put together the bicycles for the kids so that they would have a brand new bike for Christmas. And what was really interesting to see is most of the kids had never received any presents ever in their lives, let alone something brand new. So some of them didn't even know how to take it in. Like, they didn't even know how to process the fact that they're getting a brand new bike. And I think the intention behind the new bike is so that they would be able to go out on their own, to bike to places where they want to go, and to form that independence that they need to get transitioned into the society. So that's something that we're really passionate about, and I think that's one way for us to give back to the community and to see that we're doing something small for the community.
How many bikes do you deliver?
So every year we build 50 bikes per event. We do the event twice. Because of COVID, we haven't done the event this year. Hopefully, we will be able to pick it up again next year. But we had been doing it twice a year, so we donate 100 bikes.
Who actually builds the bikes?
We do.
Your,
our team.
Your
So,
agency.
Yes, my brokerage. So we have 7 team members, and then we get volunteers like our family friends and my team members' family and friends. They would come in and we all build the bikes. The first time that we did the event, we were a little bit more ambitious, and we got the road bikes, which was really hard to build, and that took forever. And we learned our lessons. So we were able to. So we learn as we go, right? So we have a client who used to own a bike shop, and he was awesome. He every time he would participate, and him alone he would build like 20 bikes. And he would try to prepare the bikes to the point where it's easy to for the rest of us to assemble, so that we don't take forever to build it and then to donate to the kids. Yeah.
You brought something with you today.
Yes.
It's, standing up there. Could you describe this?
Yes. So this is a really special gift that one of my past clients had given to me after the sale of her home. Annie, she lived in her home for 40 years. So half of her life, she's in her 70s now. And the house that she lived in, her husband had built for her. Her husband passed away about 10 years ago. So she had lived in the house alone for about 10 years. And she had been thinking about going to a retirement home because it was just her in the big house. But she really couldn't make up her mind. When she first contacted me, she was very guarded, very reserved, because she didn't know if she could trust me. So through just, small communication and over time, I was able to gain her trust. And then I became her messenger. So every time there would be new vendors coming in, she wouldn't want to talk to any of the vendors. She's like, no, I'm not going to talk to them. You tell them what to do. So I have this big responsibility of taking care of her house, and I want to make sure I do a good job because, again, this is all of her retirement. And come to find out, the reason she was so guarded and reserved was because she was actually a victim of a scam. She was tricked into doing reverse mortgage on her property.
Oh no.
So yes, so she would have gotten a lot more money for her house had she not signed all that paper that she didn't know what it was for, and she didn't even know where the money went. And it was just so disheartening to hear stories like that, from and she was so trusting. She was a teacher, and trusting is in her nature. And for something like that to happen to her, it was just definitely devastating. And it happened at the time at the lowest point of her life. She just lost her nephew, one of her favorite nephews, and that's why she was in so much pain, and she didn't really know what to do. And maybe that's why a lot of the memory had got blocked out when it comes to that incident with a reverse mortgage. So of course I wanted to make sure that I can get her the most money possible with the sale of her home, and I took great care of her every step of the way. I always wanted to make sure that she's 100% comfortable before she signed any documents. And I always asked her many, many times before she signed anything. And I always encouraged her to have her family members involved, but she didn't want to. Anyway, after the sale was finalized, I went to visit her in her senior home. And she said she had a gift for me. So she made this acrostic poem for me. So again, she's in her 70s. She didn't have a lot of computer knowledge, but somehow she was able to use her son's computer to draw this, house frame. And she said, I didn't have a photo of you, so I scanned the business card where your portrait was, and I put it there. And I know it's poor quality. I hope you don't mind. And then she just made a acrostic poem using my full name, and it's so special. And I just this is one of the reasons I love my job. It's just so impactful to be able to get such a high praise from my client, with the impact that I was able to have in her life.
It's wonderful. Do you mind if I read it for our listeners?
Yeah.
So an acrostic tribute to Evangeline, is that how you pronounce it?
Yes.
Okay, Evangeline Lin.
Uh-huh.
So it has your name here
Yep.
in vertical. Established is her business. Valued is her advice. Accommodating with her time. Neighborly, neat and nice. Gracious is her behavior. Exceptional is her quest. Laborious is her mandate. Yearning to be the best. Noteworthy is her career. Loyal to her clients. Intellectual is her conversation. Noticeable are her finds. Win-win with Eva Lin.
Yeah. It's my favorite gift of all time, and it's I have this displayed at my on my desk to remind me of the reason that I got into the business. It's not just for real estate, but really to make an impact whenever possible for my clients.
You mentioned earlier the original broker that you worked with that wasn't so everything wasn't on the up and up.
Yes.
But have you had any other struggles in your career, either personal or professional?
So I think it's a blessing in disguise where I was introduced to such unethical and illegal practice so early on. So I learned not to be, anything like that ever. And that helped me to identify whenever opportunities come about, I would know whether this is within my value, and if it doesn't align with my value, then I wouldn't want to pursue that opportunity. And earlier I mentioned how I had built a really solid foundation in looking at houses and understanding the structure of the house, and then I got to a point where the growth. I hit a limit. I hit a ceiling. So then I learned by going to another position to be mentored by a really seasoned agent. And at that time, the agent, she's ready to go into retirement, and she had discussed about partnering with me, and I thought, oh, that was a really cool opportunity for me to be her partner and to start growing my business. After she agreed to be my partner, she kind of regretted that decision because she was so used to being in charge that she didn't like the concept of me being her partner. So then I was at the crossroad of deciding whether maybe I would just stay put because I had a steady income, a nice schedule, and just be status quo, or to go to the other side, which is more opportunity for myself to grow. And I know I can do better for my clients. So I decided to go independent at that time. And of course, it's scary to go independent when I only had so much savings saved up, and real estate is a commission only kind of a job. So if I couldn't make it, then I probably, it's career suicide in a sense. On top of that, my husband, which was my boyfriend at the time, he had so much faith in me that he said, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to join you. So I was like,
no pressure.
No pressure, right? I was like, great. So that definitely lit a fire in me to make sure that I do well, just so that he wouldn't quit his job for nothing. And I won the Rookie of the Year that year because I was just so.
What is that? Who gives you that?
So that's actually a real estate network that I was associated with, and there were probably hundreds of thousands of agents all throughout the country, plus Canada. It's a huge network, and to be able to be awarded a Rookie of the Year, that was huge because again, it's just it's a recognition for the hard work that I did and paid off the first year. And then I was top 20 of all of Keller Williams throughout the US, and that's over 150,000 agents. And then I was number one agent in the Pasadena office many years in a row. And again, I got comfortable, right? I'm like doing really well, and I'm really good at what I do. And I have this big brokerage as a backbone to fall back on when people are looking to hire me as their agent. But then I realized that as much as the company is a big, has a good name, there's still limitations to what I can do for my clients. So then I was at the crossroad again of deciding, okay, should I continue to be with Keller Williams, or is it time for me to go out on my own and form my own boutique brokerage? And again, it's very scary in 2019, because 2019, we've already had about 10 years of, real estate appreciation. The market is going to crash. It's just a matter of, when, right? But we decided that this is the right move for our clients and for me to continue to be better. So we decided to form our own brokerage September of last year. So it's been a year, and this has been the best year of all the years that I've been doing real estate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So yeah, just because of that, because of the discomfort that I put myself in, that I'm able to continue to thrive. And that's something that I always feel good about.
Nice. I'd like to get more into your current brokerage, but let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
The legal process can be intimidating. You don't know where to start and you're unsure of what to expect. The attorneys and staff at the law offices of Scott Wormuth have been serving the San Gabriel Valley for over 35 years, helping people just like you navigate through the legal process and ensuring you're treated fairly. You can find them at law888.com or call 626-282-6868. That's 626-282-6868.
All right, we're back with Eva Lin. And just before the break, you were mentioning how you ventured off into eventually having your own brokerage, right?
Outside of your comfort zone,
Yes.
you pushed yourself,
Yes.
but it turned out to be the best thing
Yes.
that could have happened.
Yes. Absolutely.
So you've spent a year now, your own firm, and how is your husband working with you still?
Yes.
Is he an agent or?
So he's licensed, but he doesn't do the sales side of the business. He does mainly operation. So his background, he's a licensed CPA. He worked for one of the big fours. So he's really good at building systems. So that's what he does for our business, and he manages all of the marketing, operation, and the human resources.
So he did. He gave up a big salary then, huh?
He did. He did.
So you both went into it.
Yes.
I've often heard realtors describe their business as feast or famine. Did you find it to be like that as a agent with Will Keller Williams and now on your own?
So, feast or famine. Explain a little bit more about that.
Like things can be extremely well, and you're selling homes
Or
and
nothing at all.
Yes.
Gotcha. I don't think so, because that is true for a lot of agents. I think I would say maybe 80% of the time, agents do experience that feast or famine kind of a outcome. And the reason is they're not consistent in building their business. What's different about us is that I never get complacent with the business that I have right now. I'm always about my focus is always on the long-term goal. The long-term goal is to grow the brokerage so that we can impact more people and help more families. So that's a daily commitment that we make to ourselves. And because of that, I'm always reaching out and wanting to help more people. And I don't ever get to the point where I'm like, oh, I've got enough business. Oh, I'm not going to help you because I don't have time. I think it's more about does the client recognize the value that I have to provide? And if the client recognizes the value that I have to provide, then I would go all out to make sure that I can help them to thrive.
Was there ever a point where you thought, oh no, maybe I've taken on more than I can handle, or was it always went pretty well for you?
I think COVID.
Oh, yes.
We were out of business for 10 weeks because real estate was labeled as non-essential. So we were not allowed to practice. During that time, we had to lay off all of our employees, which was awful because, again, like my phone wasn't ringing at all, and it's unprecedented. Luckily, we had a good amount of savings because we always knew that we have to have savings for rainy days like this. We just never knew when or how it's going to come about. But because of COVID, it was also a blessing in disguise. While we laid off our employees, we revisited our business model and revisited the systems that we had implemented. And we really trimmed a lot of fat in our business. Because again, when you are so comfortable running a business for so long, you kind of like get into this habit of doing things, and then you don't realize, or maybe you just feel like, I don't have time for that. Oh, it works right now, right? So that 10 weeks is when we really took a hard look at our business and decided to get rid of a lot of things and refined a lot of things just so then we can be better. And that's when we also went full out on video marketing, because we knew that that was the next best thing for our clients, especially because most of them couldn't go out to look at properties. So we used that opportunity to learn and grow. And that's why as soon as we were able to practice again, our business just completely boomed.
Do you find yourself showing more properties through video now?
Sometimes, and again, it's more of the client's needs. We always offer that if they don't feel comfortable coming out because they are at risk or they're not in the area, then we would do the FaceTime, and again, to offer our most candid opinion. So then it's not a waste of their time to come out to see it if it's not a good fit for them.
Is that something that your company does, or you outsource that?
No, I do that.
Wow, okay.
Yes.
And do you guys have an in-house mortgage broker?
No,
No,
we
yeah.
don't. No. Lenders, I think there's, every client should have their own level of comfort to work with a lender that they feel comfortable with, especially it's about their finance. So I don't get involved in that. I do recommend good lenders that my past clients have used and have worked with. But again, it's not something we want to put any kind of an influence on.
Do you require that your buyers come pre-approved?
That is something we find to be important because, again, with COVID, most sellers don't want to open their doors to unqualified buyers. So for buyers to see a property, we always ask that they're either pre-approved or they have some kind of proof of funds to confirm that they have their eligibility to buy.
I see.
Yeah.
So, Eva, what are some of the 3 favorite places or things to do or events that you experience in the San Gabriel Valley?
Yeah. Lacey Park. I don't know if you guys know about Lacey Park in San Marino. It's one of my favorite parks of all time. It's just so beautiful. I've visited so many different parks, and I just feel so fortunate to be able to live in walking distance to Lacey Park. Before COVID, we would take our daughter to Lacey Park and have picnic, flying kites, and then just do all kinds of activities there. And a funny thing was, when I first met my husband, he took me there as a surprise date, thinking that he was showing off his local knowledge because he grew up in Pasadena. And he thought, ooh, I sure would be impressed by this park. And I was like, oh, I've been here before. So that was number 1. Second, hillsides. campus, which I really find that to be a special place, and that's something where I want to always promote and make people become aware of the how fortunate we are, and there are a lot of less fortunate children out there, and we can always do our part.
Where is Hillside?
Hillsides is in San Rafael of
Pasadena. Okay.
Yes, it's borderline Eagle Rock, so it's really close by. If you guys want to visit, you can definitely stop by for a tour. Yeah.
What's the address?
I don't know the address.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yes. That'd be great. My third place is Yang's Kitchen. I don't know if you guys been there. It's a restaurant in Alhambra, and I love that place because it's all organic Chinese food, which is really hard to find in Alhambra. Another thing that I really love about them is, again, they're entrepreneurs. They had a passion for cooking, and he just decided that he's going to open this shop. And it's, restaurant business is so competitive, and to be able to do well in this niche of business, it definitely takes a lot. And quality is their mission, and we can see that in the food that they provide. They offer beef noodle soup, the pancakes, not the pancakes, scallion cakes, a lot of a lot of comfort food, but simple, but the ingredients are freshly sourced, so I really enjoy going there. And then of course COVID hit and the restaurants shut down, and I felt bad for them, but they thrived. They repositioned and used their restaurant as a grocery shop to provide fresh and organically sourced produce for the local community, and we continue to support them, and hopefully they will be back soon to be able to offer dining again.
What is the name again?
Yang is Yang. Yang's Kitchen. So,
and where is that
that's on Garfield okay. and Maine. I think that's the cross street. It's in downtown Alhambra. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. So, what advice do you have for either a young person who wants to get into real estate?
I think it's really important to not get in the business because of money. And I think a lot of people got in real estate for the wrong reason. They thought they could do real estate because there's a big paycheck at the end of the day. But what they didn't realize is, just like any other professions, you want to build the trade. You really want to learn the trade from ground up and to really be passionate about what you do. And if you are passionate about what you do, the money will always follow. So that would be the biggest advice I can give to anyone. Again, because real estate industry doesn't offer many trainings, just like attorneys would probably be disbarred to try to do that practice without having any training or experience, right? Same thing with doctors. And yet in real estate, we didn't have that standard. And I would really hope that one day, as real estate as a whole will raise the level of barrier, so then we would have more experienced professionals in the business.
Yeah. In the meantime, I think people like you who do, exhibit those standards, you'll stand out, and hopefully people will find their way to you, and
hopefully
not to the imposters.
Thank you. Yes, yeah. That's my goal, my mission, to make sure that I can do everything possible to do my part and make my impact along the way as well.
Do you have any advice for someone who's looking for a realtor on how to properly vet or know that they can trust who they're working with?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for one, I think a lot of what I have realized is that the most important thing is trust, right? So for anyone to work with anyone in any business, it's the level of comfort and trust that the professional can give to the client. And if the client feels a certain level of comfort and trust to be placed in the professional, then That's the base. But then more than that is about the experience. And I think it's not, a lot of times realtors like to say, oh, I have 10 years of experience of selling one house a year, but they don't tell that part. So I think to ask more specific questions like how many homes have you sold in the last year? Where are the homes that you have sold? How much have you sold it for compared to what it was listed for, and how long was it on the market? The track record speaks for itself. And I think a lot of agents don't have that kind of a track record to demonstrate to the prospective sellers to boost that kind of confidence in their ability to guide them through this complicated process. So that's probably the most probably the best question to ask. One of the best questions to ask.
Well, that's really great advice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If someone wants to reach out and contact you, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, they can call me directly. My cell phone number is 626-807-6581, or they can find me at linrealtygroup.com.
Well,
great. Well, thank you. It's been very educational.
Oh, thank you so much for having me today.
yeah, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for checking out another episode of the SGV Master Key. You can find the full back catalog of the SGV Master Key podcast at sgvmasterkey.com. This show was produced and edited by Russell Mono of Kind Monster Productions. Thanks again for listening or watching. We'll see you again very soon in the next episode.
Nice mother. No, kind mother.